Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today we're going to talk about the SteelSeries Arctis Nova Pro Wireless, one of their newest and most exciting headset launches in a long time. It's $350 US, so it's not a cheap headset, but we're going to go over quite a bit in this review. Now, it's available in 3 versions. You can get it in Xbox, PlayStation, or PC version. Functionally, they all do the same thing. The Xbox version still works wirelessly on PC and PlayStation. However, it's the only one that works wirelessly on Xbox thanks to a dedicated security chip, which uses one of the 2 USB-C ports on the back. The PlayStation and PC versions have 2 USB-C ports on the back. Both can be used for PC or PlayStation or a combo of both. Now, all versions of the Nova Pro Wireless support Dolby Atmos. It supports Sony's Tempest 3D audio on PlayStation, and of course, in addition to the Sonar software that we'll talk about later in this review. Now, before we get any further, I just want to say this was not sent to me for review. I purchased this because we try to provide as broad of coverage and as fair coverage as I can on gaming headsets and audio. So with that being said, whether something is sent to me for review or not, it doesn't change the way we review things. However, I don't want to not review something as big as this just because it wasn't sent to us. So this is going to be a long review. There's a lot of features in this headset. It's very robust. There's a lot to talk about. So just like some other longer reviews, I do use chapters. So if you're only concerned with certain aspects of the headset, I try to be as descriptive as I can. So check the play bar at the bottom for chapters. Otherwise, use the description, which I'll have the chapters listed there. Now, inside the box, in addition to the headset itself, you get a nice carrying pouch, you get a microphone pop filter, 2 USB-C cables, an aux cord, 2 battery packs, and the wireless base station. If you're one of the first people to buy this and get your hands on it, you may be lucky enough to get one of these little cards that basically says First Edition for Glory. It's a cardboard cardstock, but something cool to make you feel special and say thanks, I suppose. Now, as far as build quality and comfort goes, there's a lot to like here. I think the design aesthetic really takes it up a notch and approaches some higher end headphones. It actually looks almost like the Bang & Olufsen Bayoplate Portal and the SteelSeries Arctis Pro had a baby. And that's partly true because the designer from the Bang & Olufsen team actually helped design the Nova Pro. So you can see the similarities there. Now, unlike the Arctis Pro, the Nova Pro actually switches to leather on the ear pads. I actually like the leather switch. Some of my issues I've had with some SteelSeries headsets in the past is they don't quite have the same bass extension down low. So if you like deep bass, I've typically referred to other brands. Now, this one with the leather and the upgraded drivers, you actually get great bass extension. We'll talk about sound quality later, but part of that comes from the use of the leather ear pads. And because this is real leather, don't worry about it chipping and falling apart and causing issues down the road because this stuff holds up much better. The ear pads are replaceable. You can pop them off. Right now, you can't buy any replacements that I've seen. It is a snap-on ring. It's not a rubber ring, so you have to actually pry it off carefully. So down the road, you should be able to replace that, which is good because the rest of the headset seems fairly robust. So this should last a while. Overall build quality is very solid. It actually, they definitely upgraded the hinge, so I know some people might have concerns from the older line from Arctis. This seems to be an upgraded version. Now, you still get a ski band goggle style headband, which I like, and the adjustment mechanism on it is great. It doesn't have that Velcro strap anymore. It uses these buttons, which I like because it's very easy to have a symmetrical distribution of tension. And then, unlike some of the other SteelSeries, this now has a telescoping headband. So not only can you adjust the headband itself that goes across that little stretchable strap, but now you have a telescoping yoke to really fit your ears. So depending on what your head size and shape is, you should be able to find great comfort with the Nova Pro. Now, as far as clamping force goes, this is actually on the medium to lighter side. It's not quite as light as some of the other headsets I've used from them, like the Arctis 7X. It's a little bit more firm, but only slight. So for long gaming sessions, I find that this is about as perfect as it gets. Between the very soft leather ear pads and then this clamp force, again, you want a little bit more clamp force to help with bass extension, but you don't want it so much that it becomes uncomfortable. I found this to be just right, and if you move your head around, it's not going to fall off your head either. So again, this is kind of where you want it as far as clamp force goes. Now, the ear pads themselves are fairly soft and supple. It's not quite the softest or deepest pocket memory foam that I've seen in this price range. However, it's up there. Now, as far as glasses comfort goes, with thin frame glasses, I was able to wear these for hours and have no issues using my Gunnars. Now, when I use my thick frame Gunnars, because I want to test different glasses sizes, it's more noticeable there. I think the lack of total give, these aren't, again, quite as soft, and part of that has to do with using the leather ear pad material. I could feel the little bit of pressure on the larger frame glasses. So you can adjust it, and as far as like tweaking the pad a little bit to feel a little bit better for you. But overall, it was pretty good for glasses, not class leading, but for most people, this should still be very comfortable. Now, the only weird thing I noticed with ear pad comfort is the center of the driver baffle actually has a microphone in it because of the 4 microphone active noise cancellation. It sticks out a little bit. It's not flat. Unlike every other headset I've reviewed, this is the first time where there's actually a bump in the center of the baffles, depending on your ear shape. And when you're first putting these on, you can almost feel like something's in there, almost like poking your ear. I found that when I found the right listening spot and it was everything, dialed in and I'm good to go, you can't tell it's there. It's not pressing against my ears. Depending on how your ear shape is, you might feel that, so I just want to point that out. Now, the other 2 microphones for the ANC are actually on the top of the ear pad. That's going to help record the ambient noise in the background. The ANC actually works pretty well on this. As far as a computer fan goes, or a tower fan, or an air conditioning unit, it does cut that down quite a bit. Now, this is not as powerful as like a Bose QC active noise cancellation headset or a Sony. I think even the Bang & Olufsen portals do a slightly better job with noise cancellation. However, this is still a good feature add, and it still works better than others in this price range. So I think it's effective, and the good news is you can turn it off. There is on-off for ANC, and there's also transparency mode, which uses the microphone array on the outside to help pull the noise back into the headset and play the sound through the drivers. So if you do want to hear more of your surroundings, it's not going to have the acoustic properties for sound quality of an open back headset, but the transparency will let you hear more around you like an open back headset. Now, both sides of the Nova Pro Wireless have removable magnetic plates. They actually have an accessory kit online where you can swap out the headband and the plates to have matching colors. There's only a few colors available right now, and at the moment they're sold out, but I'm sure we'll see them depending on when you're watching this review. So what I want to point out with this magnetic plate is you get 2 different things on each side, or 1 different thing on each side. One side you have a USB-C port. So some people may wonder why you need a USB-C port if you have swappable batteries. Well, you can charge this with the battery inside. I don't recommend wearing this with a cord sticking out like this, but this is nice because it's a Bluetooth headset. You can charge this on the go. You may not want to bring your base station with you, obviously, for travel. So if you tuck the microphone in and use these as headphones, that little USB-C port is very convenient. It's also used for firmware updates. Now, on the other side, you get the awesome swappable battery. They preserved the swappable battery from the Arctis Pro, and the battery life is immense. You get 22 hours on a single charge per battery, so 44 hours of total use. Now, you can simultaneously charge 1 battery while you're playing, so theoretically you can play forever. It's very easy to do. Just pull down from the top, switch the new one back in. Now, it's really cool. There's a couple capacitors inside that preserve the power state of the headset while the battery's out. So even though you won't hear anything coming from the speakers themselves, the connection to the base station stays active for a short period of time, so you could swap the battery and connect it and be up and running and playing much quicker. Now, as far as controls go, you get 1 button on the right ear cup, and that is for enabling and disabling Bluetooth. This does work independently from the base station, so if this headset is completely off and you're traveling, just press and hold that Bluetooth button down, and now it's a Bluetooth headphone. And then on the opposite side, you get all the other buttons. You get your power, you get your microphone switch. Let's get the right side in focus. And then your volume wheel. Now, the volume wheel it's recessed a little bit. I found it took a little bit of getting used to as far as adjusting goes. It's got a little bit of a notch to it. It's not a smooth roll, but I think it's tactile enough and it feels pretty nice. The microphone switch is a push button switch. You can actually feel it click in and out. And just like the older SteelSeries Arctis line, when you're muted, you do get that red light. Now, the red light, the reason why I'm bringing this up now so I don't forget later, it's not going to focus, but that's okay. You can adjust the brightness of the red light. And if you don't use the pop filter that it comes with, I recommend setting the brightness down to 1 or 2. It's still very bright at 1 or 2, but then you can turn the brightness up if you do use the pop filter because you want to see that light kind of radiate through that little foam sock, if you will. Now, the microphone is not removable, but it does telescope into the headset. So if you don't want to use the microphone, you can just tuck it in just like this, and it completely vanishes. So that is a nifty feature. The only thing I have to say about this is it makes it harder to pull out. You can't really get it out while it's on your head. You're going to have to put a little bit of pressure on it and kind of, dig your finger in like I just did. So it's not bad. I wish it was slightly easier to get in and out, but overall, I do like that it's clean and flush, because if you're using these for travel headphones, I mean, that is a pretty stunning headphone to travel with. It's not like a normal gaming headset with the aesthetics. Now the Nova Pro also comes with an aux port, and the aux port is a good backup. You know, if the batteries are completely dead, you can use the included cable to plug in to a controller or a device that you just want to use a headphone jack to and not the wireless connection. The only downside with the aux cable is you lose all of the digital signal processing in the headset. So your custom EQs, your sound profile, your microphone side tone, none of that stuff works. It's literally just an analog headphone at that point. Now, the reason why they went with this push button switch for the microphone mute is because even when the headset is powered down, which happens when you plug it in, the microphone mute switch still works. You won't see a light on your microphone, but at least you can turn it on and off and use this as an aux headset. It does not sound as good in aux mode because you lose all that signal processing. The EQ is a little bit weird. It's functional, but I wouldn't use it for like an audiophile level listening solution unless you're custom EQing your aux source. Now, even though I measured this headphone extensively on my headphone measuring rig for frequency response, phasing issues, time delay, all that stuff, I'm basing my feedback on my opinion. The measurements can help give me an understanding of what I'm hearing, but I don't use that to form an opinion. So with that being said, because it's my opinion, it doesn't mean it's the only right answer out there. You know, it's what I like, you may not like, and that's okay. This is just based off my observations and how I think it compares to other headsets. Now, there's a lot of EQ profiles you can do both on the DAC and through the Sonar software. So the general feedback I'm going to give you is based off the flat EQ profile, because obviously I can boost bass and say this has excellent bass. I'll dive into that a little bit later, but this is basically referencing it in flat mode because that's typically what you hear in Bluetooth and when you first plug it in and not set up Nova. Now, as with other higher end SteelSeries headsets, this is a detail forward headset. It is not overly bright and hurting my ears. So I just want to start by saying that. It's definitely elevated in the treble range, which helps kind of give you that crispiness on the sound. And on the bass, you're still not getting a very warm, heavy bass profile. Again, very similar to prior SteelSeries Arctis headphones. Now you can fix all that with tuning later, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So out of the box in flat EQ, the mids are flat. They actually did a good job. Now I don't think they have the same warmth as some other headphones have in the vocal range. It sounds a little bit thinner, a little bit more shallow. It's not nasally in any way. It doesn't sound harsh or sibilant where you hear like the hard S's. But overall, the voice tonality is excellent. It still sounds natural. You can EQ it to warm it up a little bit, but I found that it's a very transparent sounding headphone. It's actually a very clean sounding headphone. Now, where the Nova Pro really shined is the imaging. I don't know if they have a more strict driver selection process or if I got lucky, but the localization, and this is without even looking at sonar, the natural stereo imaging of this headset is absolutely phenomenal. You can really pinpoint things in the distance. When I was playing Call of Duty, I knew exactly where some of the sounds were off in the distance, even faint sounds. The detail retrieval is excellent, but because of the way the drivers are set up on this, it is like pinpoint. And you can usually tell when you're listening to a music track that has a dead center sound source. You know, they put the vocals right in the middle from left to right on your stereo, and the voice should sound coherent on both sides. There shouldn't be any weird phasing issues. It's just super clean, and that's what these are. So that helps for gaming and knowing where the enemies are and footsteps, if you will. And it also helps a lot for music because you have very good control over the stereo imaging that the artist wants you to hear. Now, I like that they toned down the brightness just a little bit over the Arctis Pro. It's still, to me, this is the much better sound profile. It does still have all the detail, but without some of the nuances that I didn't like by being overly sharp or detailed, basically too harsh sounding. Because of that, you can still maintain a higher listening volume without having ear fatigue. Call of Duty, I've mentioned this a lot, their audio mix is kind of poor when you're trying to hear footsteps and then you're reloading a gun or shooting a weapon or there's an airstrike overhead. That's a very bright sounding audio track in the game, and that can hurt your ears if you have this turned up to hear footsteps. So because the natural EQ pulls that down just a little bit from the other Arctis series, I find it more enjoyable to use. Now, this is not as flat or subdued as a lot of other gaming headsets out there. I would say the Nova Pro is still on the bright, detailed side, just not as extreme. Now, perhaps the biggest surprise was on a game that I normally don't use for audio testing as much. And I was playing Gran Turismo 7 on these for a while, and the way these are tuned, it really woke that game up. I have a lot of gaming headsets, and I haven't heard Gran Turismo 7 sound as good as it did paired with the Nova Pro. So if you're into racing sims, between the imaging capability, the detail and expanse of the soundstage, if you will, and the bass is still really good out of the box, I honestly enjoyed playing Gran Turismo on this headset more than most headphones that I've ever used, so it's commendable for the racing side as well. Now the sound gets a little tricky for console use, and this affects PlayStation and this affects Xbox. The Sonar app, which I will show you shortly, is phenomenal. It gives you a lot of control over it. However, it's solely tied to PC gaming. So on the Xbox and PlayStation side, if you got this and you're doing all your research and you see it has Sonar, like this is going to be game changing. Call of Duty Warzone audio preset so I can have the footsteps be just right. That only works on PC as of now. There's no saving the settings. Now the base station itself, the DAC that you get, does have its own EQ presets built into it. Those EQ presets apply to Bluetooth and it applies to your console gaming. Now there's a few presets in there for, bass boost, smiley face, which is a V shape, focus mode, which is like, the upper mids get enhanced and everything else comes down, closer to like Turtle Beach's superhuman hearing mode. But you can still do custom EQ. Now it's nowhere near as extravagant of a setup as what Sonar is, but you can increase bass, you can reduce treble. I found that once I set up a custom EQ on the DAC that more closely looks like the EQ that I saw on the Warzone preset. You can get some advantages there. I don't touch the 8 kilohertz range as much, but I did boost bass for myself and I pulled some of the highs down, and then I boost like that 120 to 400 hertz region a little to help with footsteps. So you can fix it to an extent. I just really wish that the Sonar program worked on the console side, because to me that is kind of a drawback in my opinion. You're not getting all the benefits that this headset can do. Now after extensive listening tests, tons of different music, a lot of different games, I did create my own Sonar EQ profile. I just called it my Gadgetry Tech Tune. And I flipping love these headphones. I mean, I already talked about imaging. I already talked about the natural sound stage and presentation of different frequencies. I boost bass a little bit on the low end, like the 30 to 50 hertz range. So it, make sure I don't roll off too much. I pull down the highs just ever so slightly, and then I kind of warm up the mids. And actually, there's a very specific notch I do around 4,000 hertz to help fill a gap that I was noticing. But once I did that, I was able to listen to hip hop, EDM. I was listening to jazz, classical music, you name it. And it is shocking how good a gaming headset can sound, especially a wireless one. So I really want to commend SteelSeries on this. This really can be an everyday headset for a lot of mixed uses.
All right, now I'm talking to you on the Nova Pro wireless, and let's be real, the mic sounds phenomenal. I had high expectations of this, and this is certainly right up there with it. I think the only other microphones that have even come close to this are the Corsair HS80 and the Virtuoso line. Those microphones are phenomenal as well, but I actually find this has a little bit less compression on the voice, so it sounds slightly more natural, and this is before I've done any custom EQing on the Sonar software, which I'll show you as well. Now, even with the pop filter installed, I'm not changing my sound signature too much. I think it's still incredibly clear, but now you get the benefit of rejecting some wind noise if you have an overhead fan, or if you tend to have strong Ps. It's not going to pop the microphone as much, hence why they call it a pop filter. So I usually recommend leaving this on. The only reason why you wouldn't is if you constantly retract the mic, because you obviously can't do that with the pop filter installed. All right, now I'm talking to you on Bluetooth mode, connected to an iPhone. Now this is Bluetooth 5. It uses the SBC codec, so there's some compression, there's artifacting a little bit in the sound. This is very common with Bluetooth on any headset. This is just what you get with Bluetooth mic. But I wanted to show you this because you can use this. So if you're playing on a console and you are Bluetooth to phone because you want to play on Discord or use Discord, you can still hear the game from your console. So PlayStation and Xbox will come through the drivers just fine, but then the mic will get routed to your Bluetooth call on Discord. So if you do that, this is what your friends will hear, and this is what will happen when you take voice calls as well.
So a big selling point with the Nova Pro is Sonar. Now Sonar is some software to customize the sound quality of your headset, and as of right now it's only available on Windows 10 and 11. The Sonar software is so complex and powerful that I'm likely going to do a dedicated review on that alone, because I could spend up to an hour just talking about Sonar. This is a big selling point of this headset though. What it does is it creates virtual sound devices on your computer, which allows you to have your separate game and chat audio sources, and then use the base station or your headphone to dial the balance between the two. You can even make your friends' voices sound more clear, have more bass, sound like a walkie-talkie, And then to take things further, you can use the EQ to change your microphone sound quality as well, whether you want to have more of a podcast voice or sound like a walkie-talkie. The microphone settings also allow you to adjust noise gate and remove background noises to an extent, so you can actually get rid of some of the keyboard noise. You can get rid of fan noise by having a higher level noise gate and set the threshold by decibels. So I like that it's all built into one program. It just makes it easier to use, and then you don't have to add custom filters in your streaming software. Now the Sonar software is great because it's not just a generic EQ. On the chat and mic, it's more of a standard EQ, but the parametric EQ you get on the sound output is just ridiculous. You get to not only boost and reduce frequencies, but you can adjust the Q, or basically how wide that adjustment is. So if you want a broadband bass boost, you can set the Q to a lower number and open that up to greatly impact bass across a larger region. Conversely, if you need to boost only the footstep sounds or reduce the frequency of an airstrike because it's just too sharp, you can create these tiny little notches and increase or pull down various frequencies. It really allows you to fine-tune this headset, and this is what gives you the biggest competitive edge, again, on the PC side. Now within SteelSeries GG, if you click on Engine, this is basically the adjustments on the DAC itself, but you're using the computer to adjustment. I do like that you can make some of these changes while it's connected to console by using the wheel that's included on the base station. A long press and hold on the wheel will enable that menu, and then you can turn the wheel and click on things to choose what menu you want to navigate to and make settings for. Now there is a custom EQ setting on the GG engine, and that applies for your game. I did also find that whatever you apply on the DAC side through the GG engine or through the base station itself, even once you've disconnected from the DAC and you go on travel, the headset's EQ profile now uses that for your Bluetooth audio. So if you do a bass boost because you like more bass and then you go on a trip, it's stuck on that bass boost profile when you're just pairing your phone to it. I like that at least you get some control there. The one downside is you can't use the Sonar software to adjust your sound quality with Bluetooth, but at least it's there and you have some options. Now, one of my favorite adjustments in the engine portion of the SteelSeries GG software is the Bluetooth and transmitter settings. So you can actually set this to not reduce game volume when you have a Bluetooth call. That's basically so when you're on a Discord call, you still want to hear Xbox or PlayStation volume at a loud volume, but then still be able to talk. You can enable that or leave it set to that setting and not reduce volume. Or you can have a 12 decibel cut and make sure that if you're taking a phone call, the game in the background is not, pounding your ears and making it hard to hear who you're talking to. Now, surprisingly, and I don't usually see this, there's a transmitter setting where you can choose speed versus signal strength or distance. And the latency on this is extremely low, but even in the speed setting, this has the longest wireless range I've ever tested on a wireless headset. I was able to walk through almost my entire house and the signal still stayed strong, which is amazing. Now, granted, the way this house layout is better for that, but this is still the first headset I was able to do that with. So now I have a whole section of this review dedicated to what I call nerd talk. There's a lot of stuff with this headset. This is why I knew this review was going to be long. There's multiple softwares, features, travel, music, Bluetooth, game performance, aux mode, you name it. So these are just some of the things I noticed in addition to what I mentioned before. Now, when you first connect it to an Xbox, it takes several seconds to pair. If you turn off your Xbox or unplug that cord and let's say the other cord's connected to your PlayStation, the base unit will automatically switch over to the next active source and start playing that. The PlayStation and PC connection is nearly instantaneous. It's just the Xbox side because that security chip has to negotiate and establish an approved wireless connection. Now, even though I like the clean aesthetics of this headset and the single volume wheel, that volume wheel is also used to control your game to chat mix, whether you're on Xbox or using the virtual audio drivers on Sonar. So pressing the volume wheel in will switch the base station to game to chat adjustment. Even in Xbox mode, you'll see the DAC change, and then you can scroll up and down. In theory, this all sounds great and convenient. However, if you are in a very stressful first-person shooter situation, let's say you just got killed in Warzone and you go to Gulag and you want to quickly turn your friends down and increase the game volume up. Well, you have to see what mode you're in. Make sure you adjust that by cutting them down and then boost game. So you're pressing and adjusting, and if you're going in Gulag quickly, that doesn't give you a lot of time to react. This is where I like Astro's A40 implementation better. The mix amp on the A40 gives you two dedicated dials on the DAC, and it makes it very easy to dial in and turn off your friends or turn up the game. The DAC on this still gives you that functionality, but you have to press the wheel in once to switch between game or chat mix. So it's just, again, it's an extra step. Now, because this is being marketed as an audiophile gaming headset or a high quality detailed gaming headset, there's a lot to discuss on bitrate. The simple version of this is a 24-bit 48 kilohertz headset. Now, the base unit, the wireless base station, will always say that. However, if you are outputting sound through Sonar, Sonar downgrades that to 16-bit 48 kilohertz at 8 channel because it's doing the virtual sound processing. So whether you have the 96 kilohertz 24-bit wired version of this headset or this, if you're using Sonar, you're in 16-bit mode. There's no way around it. The only reason why you would care about higher res after that is if you are okay with bypassing Sonar entirely and using this headset as a direct audio device in Windows. In that case, this will show up as a 24-bit 48 kilohertz on the wireless one, and the wired one, because it has the Burr Brown DACs, that will show up as the 24-bit 96 kilohertz. So it's not to say 16-bit sounds bad. I know a lot of people are going to say you have to have 24-bit or higher. Just try it for yourself and see if you think it's breaking or hurting the sound in any way. Obviously, higher sample rates and bit rates are better, but it's not a deal breaker, especially if you're using it on the gaming side where you would want those benefits of Sonar for custom EQ tuning. Now, in the note of Bluetooth, you can simultaneously send Bluetooth music to this while this is wirelessly connected to a console or PC. So if you're concerned about dual audio, you're good there. All right, so we made it to the end of the review. Congratulations. It was a long review. I had a lot to say, and I know I missed some things. Guys, this review could have been over an hour. It's just packed with stuff. But I do want to say something about the value. So $350 is expensive. A lot of people aren't going to be able to afford it or justify it, or they're trying to find out if it's worth it. So I'll leave it at this. When you look at a $300 pair of Sony or Bose wireless headphones for travel, what does that leave you left for a gaming headset? If you had to buy that for travel, that leaves you $50 for a gaming headset. That's not going to be a good experience. So what makes this one special is you're getting sound quality that really honestly gets closer to those more expensive Bluetooth only travel headphones. It's a lot closer than I thought. The sound quality of this is just absolutely amazing. And now you get Sonar, you get the game base station wireless DAC, if you will, that gives you all these extra controls. You get console support, multiple console or platform support because it has 2 USB ports on the back. There's just so much that this thing offers that the $350 price point suddenly doesn't seem that bad because you can use this as your only headset and headphone for everything. So for people who don't have the means or don't want to buy a lot of different headsets, that's, I think, where the Nova Pro comes in. And you're really not getting shortchanged anywhere. The build quality is phenomenal. I think it looks great. It's really comfortable. Even with that little bump in the middle for the microphone, for me, it wasn't a big deal. And it's worked extremely well for me. I really, really do like this headphone, and I could see myself using this for a lot of different things. Now, is it going to rival a $350 aux-only gaming headset or our headphone that's designed for high fidelity sound? It's not, because you're paying for all this other stuff. You're paying for the DAC, etc. However, I think it's commendable that they were able to get this level of detail and bass response. And it's honestly, to me, I think the price point is more than fair for what you're getting. It just works exceptionally well. And if you don't need wireless, but you like all the other stuff, the $250 version is a crazy deal too. You just have to deal with the cord. So I think they knocked it out of the park with this. I could definitely see myself using this every single day. Yeah, super happy with it. So if you found this review helpful, great. If not, shoot me a comment below, ask me a question. I'll do my best to answer it. Do not forget to like and subscribe, because if you like this content, there's more coming. I'm moving in a few weeks to a new studio, and I have some big surprises coming up, so I can't wait to share that with you. But I also want to see you next time at the next video. So thank you again always for the support and for tuning in and making it to the end, because holy cow. With that being said, I'll see you next time.